talking about their move to Arlington Heights. It sounds a little bit more definite now after President and CEO of the Chicago Bears, Kevin Warren, released a statement. And then the mayor of Arlington Heights released a statement as well. And right now I want to go to Ernie Rose. He is with Touchdown Arlington. This is a grassroots organization that is supporting the Bears moving there. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. We're excited to talk about the Bears.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So we know the Bears bought that 326 acres. That was back in 2023. Your group started working. Exactly what is your group doing right now?
Well, we're in a good spot. The Bears and the Village are making good progress. And when things are quiet, which they have been lately, that means that they're getting the real work done. Our group was primarily involved. I think most people are aware we had a long dispute over taxes between the schools, the Village, and the Bears that had to get worked out. And that was a seemingly never-ended hurdle that took a couple of years to get through. So right now we're sitting and watching the good news coming in as Mayor Tenalia and the Bears report on significant progress.
You know, there was a line in that statement from Kevin Warren that really made this almost sound pretty much like a done deal to me. And the line that really sticks out right now is moving outside of the city of Chicago is not a decision we reached easily. What do you make of his statement that he gave out to the media yesterday?
Well, I think it gives us some direction. I think this arrows have been pointing this way for a long time. As I mentioned, we were talking about things that were in the way, big obstacles like taxes and tax certainty. And it seems like the Bears and the Village are aligned on a concept for what needs to happen in order for a stadium to be built in Arlington Heights. And this is where the real work begins. This is where they talk about the traffic and they talk about the economics and how we get this done. And so I think our mayor and our village manager are having very serious, productive discussions with President Warren and his team.
Let me ask you this. Is this something that will have public response, public comment meetings will be held in Arlington Heights for residents and the Bears so that residents have a clear understanding of exactly what's coming to their community?
Yeah, and the Village has been very clear on this. This is not a done deal. They want to have a productive ongoing conversation with the community and the stakeholders, the businesses, making sure that the planned development makes sense for our other stakeholders. And downtown Arlington Heights, we have a thriving commercial district already. But I think the messaging is now we're getting to the stuff we should have gotten to 3 years ago. We're talking about the micro instead of the macro, and we're agreed on a concept. But the Village has said there will be meetings, there will be discussion, there will be time for community input on the plan.
You know, one of the big things that came up is funding. Who is paying for this stadium when it's all said and done? Any idea from the standpoint of being in Arlington Heights if the community is willing to shoulder any burden of taxes possibly for this stadium?
Well, and it's an interesting question. For years and years, you'd see communities just pour money into stadiums, and it was a bad financial model. And that's not what we're doing here. The Bears are responsible for their stadium. Any big development, whether we're talking about the Bears or data centers, is going to require some investment from the community. And that's what the Bears are asking for, is reasonable tax certainty as to what they'll need to pay and some contribution from the funds that they'll generate from having this massive development towards the development. And I think folks in Arlington Heights are willing to make a deal, not a bad deal, not any deal, but there's a deal to be had that makes sense for the Bears and makes sense for Arlington Heights.
I'm on your website right now, touchdownarlington.com. You're asking for people to join the team. They can be a part of this. What exactly can they be a part of? What is Touchdown Arlington doing kind of behind the scenes to get this ball rolling?
I think we're trying to keep everybody focused. And so like I mentioned, the last big hurdle we ran into was trying to figure out how to get a fair deal for the schools and for the Village and for the Bears. And we were involved in those conversations and moving that issue forward. And I anticipate there will be other hurdles, and some of them should be hurdles. The Bears shouldn't get everything that they want in this deal, but we want to make sure all parties are being earnest and honest, and that we stay focused on the central goal of bringing the Bears to Arlington Heights. So we've had folks have letter writing campaigns. We've had them show up at community meetings, and I'm going to encourage all Arlington residents to continue to do the same. And all the surrounding suburbs. This is a Northwest suburban issue. It's a statewide issue, but really all of our neighboring towns have a vested interest in this too.
You know, when we've talked about the stadium being in Arlington, we've talked about and heard from the Bears pretty much directly about this really being an entertainment space, not just a place where the Bears play and that's it. In your mind, what makes this, I guess, lucrative for Arlington Heights? What would you ideally like to see there? Is it just a stadium? Is there entertainment? Is there shopping? Are there hotels? What do you envision?
I think what's there needs to be complementary to what already exists in Arlington Heights. Anybody who's made a trip downtown to Arlington Heights in the last few years will see a thriving district that's successful with restaurants and some shopping. But there's room for more. And I think the village just needs to be very conscientious that this development is truly mixed use. There needs to be a stadium, and there should be some restaurants and commerce. But it shouldn't be something that devours the rest of the community. It should be complementary. So I think it needs to draw, in addition to the stadium, there need to be other elements that draw people to Arlington Heights, not just take away business from other parts of Arlington Heights. And I think the Bears are keen to that and willing to participate in making this something that works for everybody.
When I think about Arlington Heights, I've been there a few times in the course of my duties as a reporter, and I think of a place that is quiet. I think of a place that is peaceful. I think of a place that's a great place to raise a family. I don't envision, this is just, me on the outside looking in, an influx of thousands of people. Has the community responded about, how they feel about being bogged up in traffic, how they feel about noise? Have we even gotten to that point?
I think we're heading there, and I think everybody's going to have their own opinions. What I'll say is every neighborhood has their own challenges, and every setup has their own challenges. What we have is space. You try to leave. I remember going to a Beyonce concert at Soldier Field, and it took an hour to get out of the stadium, and an hour just to leave the stadium because we're working with old plans. This gives us a chance to start anew. And I think whatever the Boo Bears do has to be sensitive to the fact that there's a surrounding community. I think the placement is perfect. This lot is larger than where the Rams built their development in Los Angeles. This is a huge space. And so we're going to have to get creative to manage the traffic. I anticipate that they'll shut down certain streets on game days to make sure that the traffic facilitates getting people in and out of town without major disruptions. But anybody who thinks this will be, completely neutral to life in Arlington, I don't agree with that. I think it will result in changes, but I think that they're changes that are worth accepting in light of the significant opportunity, really a once in a generation type opportunity here.
Yeah, it is. And, we've seen stadiums across the U.S. Kind of make this move. This isn't a new move to relocate, from one city and go somewhere else. What do you make of that part, that Chicago is kind of like the loser in all of this?
The Bears are staying in the Chicago metro, and I follow Chicago news all the time. I consider myself part of the Chicago community, despite working and living in the suburbs. And I think to define Chicago anymore by the strict city limits is not really a way to look at this. The Bears are a community element. I think Kevin Warren's letter says a really significant portion of season ticket holders live within 25 miles of Arlington Heights. And so, yeah, there will be fans that have to go further to a game, but I don't know that it's much further to get from Lincoln Park to Soldier Field than it is to get to Lincoln Park to Arlington Heights on a game day with the way the construction's been lately. It's really not that big of a change for the fan experience. They get out of here for all sorts of events, and this is a thriving community. We got Schaumburg down the road, and really this is just a expansion of the influence in the northwest suburbs.
Have you seen any influx or any change when it comes to property values? Because I would think, once this announcement is made, people are going to see those property values start to go up. People may sell higher price than maybe before. Has there been any indication of more people being attracted now to Arlington Heights than before? I know it's a very attractive place for people to live, but I would think in light of this news that we started to hear, we're talking months ago, that people would want to move there.
Yeah, I think you're seeing some speculation about where prices are going to go and where taxes are going to go. And candidly, I think it's too early to really have those conversations, but I think the consumer's interested. My background's in real estate, and I hear more people talking about moving here because of the Bears than I hear people talk about moving away from here because of the Bears. And so that's not for everybody. I think there's folks within a few blocks of that stadium that are going to say this isn't for me, and there's going to be plenty of others that are going to be excited to walk across the street for a Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Always mixed reaction, no matter what the situation is. Kevin Warren said sometime in September, October, or November, the team will make a public presentation and answer questions about this particular site. Actually, that was from the mayor. I take that back. That was actually from the mayor of Arlington Heights. And then it went on to say, then the village planning, design, and housing commissions will review the proposal before it goes to a village board vote. What do you think needs to be in that proposal, perhaps to persuade those that may not be on board?
Yeah, and I think we're still looking to get something done in Springfield to help come up with a shell for what the tax layout for this is going to be. How are we going to fund this thing? And so that's going to be sitting in the background, whether it gets resolved in the veto session or addressed next year. That's going to be kind of overlaying all of this. But I think the community wants to have answers to some of the things that we haven't been able to talk about to this point because we didn't have details. They want to know where the stadium's going to be. They want to know what's going to be around the stadium. How are people going to get in and out of town? Anybody who's come into Arlington Heights on 53 knows that's a challenge. Imagining 70,000 people coming in there, it's hard to imagine how they're going to do it, but I think there are ways to do it. People are going to want to know that we have sufficient fire and police support to have so many people in our town on a Sunday. And so these are the questions that everybody's told us to be patient about, and I think reasonably so because we weren't that far along. Well, now we're getting signals that we are at the point of the process where some of these real questions will be tackled. And so I know our village board, we just had an election, and everybody's attuned to these issues and is going to do their due diligence to make sure that Arlington gets a good deal.
Anything that you want to see in terms of bringing this stadium into your community? This is like something that's like a must-have that checks the box off of your list.
Yeah, I really think the most important element of this entire plan is making sure that what is built doesn't change the identity of Arlington Heights. If you look at reasons why people move here, we have great schools and our downtown. Every ad you look at talks about proximity to downtown. And we don't want that to become a ghost town. We want that to be a thriving entertainment district. It's 2 miles away. And so we want that to be something that is complementary to what currently exists. And I think the challenge for the Bears and for Arlington Heights is to make sure that those pieces fit well together and that the Bears can be good partners in supporting our already existing businesses.
Someone may be watching right now. They may live in the community. They may not have heard of Touchdown Arlington Heights. What should they be looking for, and why should they join the team?
Well, I think at this point, what we need to do is get support where we need support. And when we see these issues getting stuck at our village board, making sure the community's heard. And joining the team means being informed, getting updates on the progress. We've not had a lot to talk about for the last year. We got past the tax debate, and we've kind of sat as the Bears said, maybe here, maybe there. Well, they're here, and now is the time to start following developments and making sure that everyone's proceeding responsibly so that we can get the best and highest use out of that lot, which I do believe is a Bears development. Now it's just the how we get that done, and we're here to make sure that this develops in a responsible way.
Do you have any idea? I know this may be a hard question, but just kind of looking forward, how long this could possibly take? Are we talking 3 years until a stadium is actually physically built in Arlington Heights?
Well, we have a very thorough planning and development department, and I mean that in a good way. They do a good job vetting. And to get anything done in town requires going through the normal processes, and the Bears will be subject to all of that. So it's the Bears' lot. They're able to start doing some things now with permits, and whether they choose to wait until something gets done in Springfield will be their choice. Nobody knows the answer to that. And if we're waiting on Springfield, we've got a week this year, and if it doesn't get done, we got next year. So if the Bears get moving, I would hope to see shovels in the ground sometime next year. If it requires further resolution in Springfield, this thing could get pushed down the road. And so I know that I think it's optimistic when Kevin Warren says they'd love to host a Super Bowl in 2031. I think that's very optimistic, but if it happens, it would be wonderful to see, and I hope they're up to the challenge.
Any final words that you have?
This has been a long soap opera. The last 4 or 5 years, it's been interesting to watch in Arlington Heights, and our community is ready. We've been kind of sitting and watching, and the Bears did their shopping. They talked to Aurora and they talked to Chicago in 3 different locations and all these different places that wanted a piece of the project. And I think now that they've come to the conclusion that most of us here have felt, which is this is the best location. It's an opportunity. And now it's incumbent on everybody to make sure it's a win-win and that this ends up being great for Arlington Heights.
And I'm sure this will not be the last time that we talk to you as this project moves forward. Ernie Rose with Touchdown Arlington. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time today.
Yep. Thanks for having me.